Your boy Rome Herbert hosting this first ever YouTube channel podcast dedicated to this. But right now we have a very crucial issue. James Earl Jones is retiring as a voice of Darth Vader. So by the end of this segment, we want you to know what that means for Star Wars and the weight of that gravity. So first off, my man's KJ, can you let me know, for those who don't know, who is James Earl Jones?
Yeah, so James Earl Jones, black actor, forefather, the pioneer. I mean, when we talk like pinnacle of black actors, James Earl Jones is definitely on that list. Not only on that list, but he's like the Mount Rushmore. So when we get into that, most notable, I mean, the man was in Star Wars, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back. On multiple films. Rogue One, which we're gonna tie into Andor for, but other films besides those, we got Lion King. He was Mufasa. We got James and the Beanstalk, the Giant. We got Coming to America 1 and 2. So we got those. We got The Sand-A-Lot. He was the neighbor with the dog. We got
Wait,
Robot.
you said he was in The Sandlot?
Yeah, he was in. Yeah, that was him. When they had when they had the Big Saint Bernard, munching on the ball, and he opened it. That was him.
This whole time I didn't know that was him.
Yeah, that was him.
That's crazy.
Big old Saint Bernard. That was him. So yeah, he was in Sand-A-Lot. Robots, and of course, fun fact on Robots: Ewan McGregor was on that joint, and he was Rodney, and yeah, he was in Robots as well. Simpsons narrator from the 90s, from 90 to 98, I believe. When we talk about like black cinema and black television, a family thing, and Meteor Man as well. So those, and going back to some of our own childhood, Disney American Legends, he was the narrator for that. And another notable one is Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins. He was in there with Martin Lawrence.
Okay.
And a few other, like Cedric the Entertainer, and people like that. But yeah, kicking it off, A New Hope. That was the one that he was really notable for, because that's what kicked off Star Wars, man. 45 years ago, May the 25th, 1977.
Sheesh. So basically, this man is both an OG of cinema, period, right? He's on the, like I say, he's on the Mount Rushmore when it comes to black actors.
Man is 91 years old.
Man's 91 years old. Okay. The only comparable person would probably be like a Morgan Freeman type character, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, when we talk about narration, Morgan Freeman, James Earl Jones,
like right next to each other. You feel me?
Bro.
Which I feel like I didn't realize before coming into this that he was that prolific in his field in terms of being involved with multiple filmography throughout his career. So, and that's probably the next best question of how did he get this role of Darth Vader?
When you hear Star Wars, you think of George Lucas. For the most part, for most fans, of course, you think of Disney now because that's who has it. Yeah. But James Earl Jones got into the Star Wars realm because, well, this is what we got. We got from boldinterest.com from Daniel Rennie. So from the information that I've gathered, it's saying that without the right voice, Darth Vader would not have been iconic villain he became, which is true. Even with his costume, Lucas was on the search for the right voice, which would eventually lead him to, Sonara's vocal talent of James Earl Jones. So before settling on Jones, the director went through the tapes of some of the finest voice of Hollywood. And not only that, he went through James Earl Jones' catalog from what it seems like. And he noted that James Earl Jones had that baritone voice, which ultimately won George Lucas over. Okay. And that pretty much came into his attention. And, through his friends and some of his collaborators, people he's worked with, and they just happened to write the Bingo Long Traveling All Stars and the Motor King, which was something that James Earl Jones starred in. So Jones recalls that Lucas wanted a darker voice, just kind of getting more in depth on, what their insight on Darth Vader's voice would be like. Not in terms of race, but just with deep bass. And James Earl Jones had that because he had that deep baritone type of voice. In fact, Lucas was initially worried about hiring a New Hope's only black man as a villain, but Jones' talent proved to be good, turned down. Ironically, Jones had a stutter, but it didn't really cause any recording issues. But in quote, James Earl Jones said, "I looked out from all of these so-called handicaps," he told the American Film Institute, "looked out to get a job that paid me $7,000. It was actually $7,500. And I thought that it was good money. And I got to be, a voice in a good movie." So Jones was happy with the $7,500. And it was only about 2.5 hours worth of work. And little did he know, man, that role would be, it would be what it is today. It sparked everything, bro. So
can you imagine anybody else's voice as Darth Vader now at this point in time? Like, it's unforgettable, right? When he first steps on the scene. And you know what I'm saying? Think about that, $7,500 for 2 hours of work.
Think about that. If you made that on an hourly rate.
You know what I'm saying? Man, for that time period, was it like the 70s or something? You feel me? It's smooth, right? But I mean, when we really think about this, though, this James is the first black character in Star Wars, period. Right? And the significance of that is like one of the main characters that we think of when we think of Star Wars is automatically Darth Vader. You know what I'm saying? That kind of "I'm your father," you know what I'm saying? Lines like, and the whole storyline is driven through Anakin growing up, then becoming Darth Vader, right? And he's even still in the new Skywalker saga. It's like the tough thing I feel like part of it with Lucas as well is that I think it kind of was good to consider, how come the first black character would be a villain? And on top of that, the first black character wasn't like seen on screen, right? So this is pattern of not using, like just using black actors for their voices. But on top of that, I think and we're going to get into this when we talk about Andor, but and just Star Wars in general, like seeing black characters just put as the antagonists or as the villains. Like, I think because of this kind of inception, we're still kind of seeing the ripple effects for how people cast black characters just as the villains or as the darker characters, as, you know what I'm saying? We have Reva and Kenobi, right? So we're still seeing this pattern of black actors being posited as this, you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of interesting. I think we had talked about how like he even thought about voicing Darth Vader a certain way to make him more human, right?
Right.
But George Lucas wasn't really rocking with it.
So in the sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, he wanted a more psychological approach. He thought Vader was more on a psychological thing. But his ideas were immediately crushed by Lucas. And quote, "I remember on Empire Strikes Back, when George had a chance to counsel me, he said, 'We don't know what we did right on A New Hope, so let's try what we did,' said Jones. Naturally, I wanted to make Darth Vader more interesting, more subtle, more psychologically oriented. And he said, no, what we're finding out is you've got to keep his voice on a very narrow band of inflection because he isn't human. He has those cybernetics, after being burnt up on Mustafar, he had the cybernetics to make him into Darth Vader, and into what he is today. So, yeah.
Which I feel like could have even shown some of the, a bit more of the humanity of Darth Vader earlier on. Like, I feel like in episode 3, remember when Anakin's like breaking loose as Darth Vader, he's like, "Where's Padme? Is she safe?" He's like, "No," you feel me? Like he's screaming, yelling. Like
that was Earl Jones too.
Exactly. So I feel like maybe he finally got to kind of experiment with that. But how different would it have been if we had that during Empire Strikes Back, where we got to experience this black voice as more of a person, right? But of course, you think given George Lucas, this is the 70s at the time too, right? It's a white man. He's the director. He's calling the shots. So it's like James Earl Jones,
say so.
he ain't got much say to it, right? It's like, oh yeah, this could be dope, but actually, no, we're gonna go with my vision and my direction. So it's like kind of just a product of the times where it's like, man, it might have been a dope opportunity, but you gotta think about maybe the position James was in is like, well, I'm the first. I don't know if he was the only black actor on the set. I don't know if we might have to double
don't
check
put
that.
us on that, but yeah, we don't know yet. We'll have to look into it to see, if he was the only black man whatsoever on set. But either way, he's a man. Like he's the guy who voiced Vader, so he's the only black man with a notable role.
Exactly. With a
so there
role.
We go.
You feel me? Like it might have been some extras in some stormtrooper suits, but that's
they all clone, or not literally clones, because the clones got taken out by that time. Because Empire is just literally just a grand army of people that's just signing up. But you know what I mean? They all look, they all look the same.
But you think about it deeper though, like he probably wasn't even on set. Like if he's just voicing over. He probably didn't even have to be on set.
Ain't no need.
So he probably wasn't even, like you said, it was only 2 hours worth. So he probably did all his lines just isolated. So that even speaks more to like the lack of involvement of black people in the films at that time, to where he's probably just like in the cut, like doing his lines somewhere else. Imagine, and then later getting to see how it looks on screen, right?
Facts.
So to say the least, though, this is like extremely significant that his voice is being retired. And it just begs the question, like, will anybody be able to replace James Earl Jones' voice?
I don't know, man. When we go into the technology side, I mean, shucks, they, I don't know, man. It's hard to say. I mean, it's special effects, with like Ben Burtt's, with his sound design. So he had a little bit of, not say so, but like a little bit of, expertise on what went into, making Vader's voice, filtering the voice through complex breathing masks, because, he got the helmet on and everything.
Facts.
Or the respirator and whatnot. So, shout out to Ben Burt, too, on that, man, for the sound design.
Big up Ben Burt, man. Well, make sure y'all like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Let us know, what do you think James Earl Jones retiring from the voice of Darth Vader means for the legacy of the Star Wars franchise? We think it's a major, huge blow, but just holler back, leave a comment. Did you not like him anyways? If you don't, you probably don't like Star Wars. I'm going to call you on that. You feel me? But we'll be back.